So imagine an imaginary bell ringing. And I very much want to welcome all of you to what I know is going to be a very meaningful time together. My name is Dianne Kaufman. I'm a child psychiatrist, poet, and artist, and the founder of the Arts Healing Resiliency Center at Mind Matters PC in Hillsboro, Oregon. I have known Sherry a very long time. In fact, Sherry was my mentor when I was in poetry therapy training, and I'm delighted that she's with us today. September is Suicide Prevention Month, but as we know, every day is Suicide Prevention Day, and wanted to do something special in terms of affirming life, also talking about heartache and depression and despair and how we can help ourselves through that. According to the American Society for the Prevention of Suicide, the 10th leading cause of death in the United States is suicide. In the state where I live, Oregon, it's the first leading cause of death for youth ages 10 to 24, second for 24 to 34, and third for the next category up to 44. And for those lives lost to suicide, there are astronomically higher numbers of people who have attempted suicide, thankfully not ending their life. So I want to, put in context that meaning of today's event too. I also want to share with you a bit about Sherry, and there's more than a bit that one could say about this remarkable woman. And I encourage you to go to her website, which is the Creative Writing Center, RIGHTING. And also there are upcoming workshops and seminars and trainings that Sherry does through the Creative Writing Center that you really should check out. So a bit about Sherry. Lcsw Phd. She has numerous awards from the National Association of Poetry Therapy. She was the president of the National Association of Poetry Therapy. She was also president of the National Federation for Biblio and Poetry Therapy. And she is the author of books, and I recommend highly to you, Writing Away the Demons, Stories of Creative Coping Through Transformative Writing. So now I'm going to turn this over to Sherry.
Okay, thank you, Dianne, Dr. Dianne Kaufman. I want to thank you and the Arts and Healing for Resiliency Center for sponsoring this event. Today, I'm going to be sharing some music that has gotten me through the tough times in life. And Dr. Dianne has told you about some of my professional accomplishments, but she didn't tell you about my personal history, which I am going to be very real and upfront about. And by the way, this is recorded. So if someone doesn't want to be on camera, you can always use the chat to share. But what she didn't tell you is that I have suffered from depression throughout my life. My first depression and addiction, okay? My first depression was when I was 21, and I stopped sleeping. And I remember going to my parents' house. I really felt very bad, but I didn't understand what was happening. And I went to my parents and I said, this life, I'm no good at it. I can't do it. And they looked at me, and of course, it's very hard to look your parents in the eye and say you don't want to live. I think they understood what I was saying. Now, at 21 in the 70s, I didn't know what depression is. And it took me years to get the help that I needed. But life is a teacher, and we are all students of the mind, as Dr. Jack Leedy, the psychiatrist, used to say. We are all students of the mind. And the mind can be a trickster. The good news, of course, is that there are treatments for depression, and they do work. The first treatment might not work, the second treatment might not work, but don't give up. Don't stop trying to find the right method, the right therapy that will work, or the right medicine or treatment that will work for you. Instead, I will suggest, and this is why I wanted to do this workshop very much, that people become knowledgeable about what depression is. And the most important, it's good to have a great therapist. If you're very lucky, you find someone that you relate to. But the most important thing is understanding that the pain that you will feel if you are depressed is temporary, okay? And you don't want to, as I say, depression is a temporary problem, but suicide is a final solution. There's no coming back from that. Your own will to live, your own understanding that it is temporary so you can get through it, and that you need to listen to what your body or mind is saying, which if you're in pain, if you broke your leg, you would certainly seek medical help. This has to do with the brain, and it starts in the brain, and it gives you pervasive symptoms where a person will feel doubt, inability to make decisions, low self-worth, guilt, not even understanding why you might feel guilty. You might feel like hurting yourself. These are symptoms of depression. It is a disease. It is a disorder. Yes, suicide it's called a permanent solution to a temporary problem. I know the pain doesn't feel temporary. It feels endless when you're actually in the pain. But that is the reason that people take their lives, because they just can't bear being in pain. Today, we're going to look at some of the universal emotions that play a role in depression. And I'm hoping that we can create a sense of community today with the 3 C's: community, creativity, and courage. Because human beings have been subject to depression since the beginning of time. Now, Indigenous people, if someone says they feel sad, they will say, when did you stop singing? When did you stop dancing? And the Indigenous people really know how important it is for us to express our feelings through the arts, which is what we are going to do today. Before we begin, and I'm going to be using writing prompts as well as music, I would like to interview a very special guest. And her name is Catherine. Catherine, you're on the call. Where are you?
Yes, I am. I just unmuted myself.
Great. this is going to be a quick interview, but my first question for Catherine is, I know that you use the arts, that you're an artist, you love to draw, you love to paint, you love to dance, you love to write. So my question for you is, what does writing do for you?
Well, actually, I don't really like to write. I really don't. It's a struggle, but I have to write. I need to write. Writing for me through my life, it was like a screen. And my body automatically, it just knew how words worked. And innately, rhymes come for some reason. So writing, yes, it's a tool of mine to keep happy, to keep above water.
I've heard you use the words metabolizing pain. Can you tell us something about that?
Yeah, like I was saying, I had gotten so low that I needed to scream. I needed something to come out of my mouth. And it did. It did. I for so long I've written. That's been my medium. So I consider I when I produce a poem, I think it's a nice poem, but it doesn't have to be a nice poem. It has to be something I'm expressing to metabolize that pain, to send it out of me, to make sense of it in my own words. It's the healing that happens when I have a voice. That's the words.
Okay. Now, when you were 22 years old, you jumped in front of a moving train. And miraculously, you lived. So you're really a survivor. And my question is, what heartbreak was it that made you think that your life was not worth living?
Well, there's a lot in my life, but I felt like a failure. That's definitely true. I felt like I was a failure. I went against my family's morals, values. I went against my own, the core of my own value. I had two very major things happen. One, I had a divorce. And even though I had to get the divorce because of my own safety, I still felt guilty. Also, I lost a baby because I couldn't go against my own values either. I couldn't take care of a child, and I did this even though I loved a child, and it was painful. I'm sorry if I offend anybody that's believes in life, but I believe in life too, which is exactly why I didn't think I was worthy.
So you were in conflict, really.
I was in tremendous conflict, which is part of the problem, I believe, conflict. Yeah, it is an amazing story. And I was thin enough to fall between the tracks. And when I got up, I was pulled up by the emergency people that took me up. And I came out, and the first thing I said before they brought me to the hospital was, I failed. Okay, so going on to that, I don't want to get away from your question, Sherry. And if I go on, please forgive me. It's like through time and pain and rehabilitation, and also through delusion and things that happen with depression that happen. They're just, the brain is funny. Yes, it is. Yeah. And it will tell you things that are not always true. Well, so check them out with your therapist. Or I say, there are things in front of you that you must love. Anything that stays with you. A bird, a tree, a song, the words that come out of your mouth. Even if you don't believe in yourself at that time, I know there are people you will eventually connect with. I did. And it is an amazing experience to come out the other side.
One more question. Okay. You are now 66 years old.
67.
Oh, 67, excuse me. You're 67. What would your 67-year-old self say to the 22-year-old who jumped in front of the train before?
I would say, you're not a failure. These are messages that are not true. You haven't, the story's not over yet. There is pain, yes, there is, and that will subside after time. It will go away. It's a temporary pain. It's pain. Yes, it's pain. But there is a light at the end of the tunnel. There is hope because with time, that feeling is going to change. And self-love is the most important. And you can access that. You can get that back by hearing messages of good people in your life, good people, good models, good tools, not the tools of feeling shameful, not the tools of stigma.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Catherine. You're a blessing. And Catherine is not only a mental health consumer, but a strong mental health advocate, as you can tell. Thank you so much.
I have a poem. Would you like me to read it?
Yes, please.
Yeah, I wrote this poem. It's called Snow Globe. And I wish everybody the very best through whatever your journey. Snow globe. Water carries with it life. And the reflection of hope caged becomes a bird's voice. It is the only way out, hope. It falls softly as snow falls, but never melts in a glass globe. We sit amazed at beauty in a bottle, the pink lace flowers stable amongst a familiar scent. Hope. Hope knows souls before the tear is formed. It withstands the barbed wire fence. It calls out to all of us in song, branching out support. Hope duplicating hope, a replica of certainty. That's it.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you, Sherry. Thank you for having me. Thank you, everybody.
Okay. We are going to the music. And what I'm going to do is give you the prompt so that while you're listening to the music, you can actually be writing if you feel like it. You're going to hear John Bon Jovi, It's My Life. I'd like you to write down in big letters, it's my life. I ain't going to live forever. I just want to dash. Okay, so I'm going to play this and share my screen. I'm stopping the music at this point, and that right, I just want to, my heart is like, is just for you, okay? Some of our prompts I will be asking you to share if you feel like it. It's always optional. So I am going back to what are some of the causes of depression and what are some of the facts? Well, you may know that they say that mental illness is polygenic, which means poly is many and genes. So there are many genes involved. And some professionals believe that the actual level of the neurotransmitters in the brain are imbalanced in depression. And actually, there is a song about that. I'm going to put that on now. You may be familiar with it. It's called Serotonin. Wow. Okay. Really interesting song that really puts out the symptomatology of feeling bananas. That's the professional term. We don't use that. We don't use the C word. But going back to the causes of depression, and I'm just staying in this program because I'm going to play another song for you. But one of the things that there could be external causes of depression, or there can be internal causes. And we're going to listen to a very classic song by Billie Holiday, Stormy Weather. And while you're listening, I'm going to ask you to go with the prompt, whether your storm is under the surface, maybe it's a grief or a frustration or a disillusionment, but what is your inner weather? Is it a storm? Is it a thunder and lightning? Is it an earthquake? What is it? And see if you can use the metaphor of weather. Do we have anybody who would like to share?
Oh, I'll share.
Laura?
Oh, well, the first one, it says, "It's my life. I ain't gonna live forever. I just want to follow my bliss every day. Receive a kiss and hug from a loved one. Know that I matter on this blue marble." That was, came out of that.
Yes.
And I love to work because I'm running out of serotonin. I didn't do it. But the next one was stormy weather. I said, "What is going on? What have I done wrong? I am drenched from a storm of shame. Ain't in the mood for any game. Why can't I smile when I hear my name? Think I better get my umbrella."
Lovely. I think an umbrella is a great idea. Thank you, Laura. Would anybody else like to share?
Yeah, I'd like to share.
Great.
So I want to preface this by saying I have bipolar 2 disorder, which is hypomania and depression. And I wrote for the stormy weather song, I said, my mood is so changeable. The weather is intense. The brightest sky, the darkest storm, and unpredictable too. The people around me don't realize I am in a hurricane of emotion. I try to hide it, but sometimes there is such a flood of elation or despair that it leaks out under the closed door. And I know they must know something is wrong, maybe, or maybe that they don't like me because of my weather.
Beautiful. The metaphor, the hurricane of emotion, they don't know, right? We can't always tell if a person is depressed. That's why when we hear that certain stars have committed suicide, and we've seen them recently on TV, and they seemed happy and cheerful and vibrant and charismatic, and we thought they had everything, but we don't see the inside, right? And I think that both of us are really illustrating that no matter how professional we are, we're cut from the same human fabric, and we are subject to the same mental disturbances as everybody else. Okay. Thank you, Diane. Is there anybody else who would like to share something? One more person.
I'll share.
I'm happy.
Okay, go ahead. Go ahead, lady in kind of lavender blue.
Oh, sorry.
Is your
Sorry.
first name?
Nikki.
Okay.
Nikki.
Yes.
Thank you. I responded to the second one, stormy
Yeah.
weather,
Yes.
and I've said, it's been drizzling. I look out the window. I know the clouds are just an obstruction between me and the sun. But these clouds are so heavy, they just need to lighten up for the sun to take its rightful place in the blue expanse once again. The storms are intermittent these days. The drizzle has prepared the spring. The garden is smiling. It knows the clouds are looking out for it, reaching down to lend a hand. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. That's it. When it's cloudy, we don't think the sun is ever going to come up.
Mhm.
And yet it always does. You captured that. And there's something very generous about nature where you have the clouds reaching out to you at the end of your poem. Benevolence. All right, thank you so much. Now we are, another important factor here. Now with Billie Holiday's song, she's talking about loss. And in depression, very often it is tied to a loss of some kind. It could be the loss of a person, could be the loss of a job, it could be the loss of an idea or a dream. But when we listen to these songs, we also seem to uncover very often another factor, which is loneliness. And loneliness and not being in community makes people think that they are the only ones who could possibly be feeling whatever it is they're feeling. And one of the great things about a good therapy is that you know you're not alone. But when you're lonely, you do feel this, that nobody else knows the pain that you are going through. So I am going to ask you on the next prompt, we're going to do an acrostic. And this is when you write L-O-N-E-L-Y vertically, okay? And as you listen to this Bobby Vinton song, Oldie But Goodie, I'd like you to write your own lonely poem. And I'm going to put the prompt on here again. Put the letters L and the next line O, the next line N, the next line E, L, and Y. And each line begins with that letter. It's called an alphabet acrostic. I'm going to share the screen. Okay. I'm wondering who would like to share whatever came up in the writing.
I'll give it a try.
Okay, Bard.
Ben.
Ben.
Yeah. So here goes.
Great.
Apologies to Bobby Vinton. Lost, obscure, nobody ever lived, yet I still do.
Can you say that again for us?
Yes, lost, obscure, Nobody ever lived, yet I still do.
Wow. Powerful. Great.
Well, thank you.
And yet I go on, right? And yet,
That's what came out, yes.
how does the world keep turning when something has happened to me that is cataclysmic? Unbelievable, right? And yet I keep going on. That's great. Perfect.
Thank you.
Thank
you. I appreciate you.
Thank you. And do we have anyone else who would like to share? These acrostics are fun. They're easy to do. And sometimes they surprise us what comes out. Anybody?
I did.
Okay. Yes.
Michelle.
Rochelle.
Okay. L. Loving you has been the greatest pleasure in my life. Oh, only you have the power to release me from my pain. N. No one should treat a loved one the way you treat me. E. I can't even remember my handwriting. Every fiber of my being is itching with pain and loss. L. Lonely is how I feel when you aren't part of my life. Y. You have the power. Release me from my jail.
You have the power to release
I know.
me,
It
right?
should be myself. I know that.
I'm not judging.
I know. It's just how I feel at times.
Yes. That you, the locus of control is not within your reach. And that is a very helpless feeling, right?
Right. And that's how I feel, helpless all the time.
Yes. Is
Only
this
because it's family. If it wasn't my sons, it'd be different.
okay? Is this person gone from this dimension?
Nope.
They are simply away from you.
Yes.
Okay.
And it started with my depression.
Or it started with your depression, or it
Yes, because of my
started your
depression.
depression.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. So separation. When we have depression, we are separated from something or someone. Could be a love object. Again, it could be a dream, could be an idea. Of course, the idea that you cannot exist without this person is, again, an idea. It doesn't mean it's true. It is what your mind or your emotions might be saying. And the mind is like sometimes a stallion. It's pretty wild. And it will try to buck you. It will try to get you off its back. Okay, so monkey mind or chatter or emotional talk that is happening in the mind, we have to be very leery because the mind can be a trickster. Okay, thank you so much for sharing that with us. Thank you. We're going on to the next. Now, sometimes there are times when we have to be alone. And being alone, like some people had to be alone during lockdown. If you're a single person and you're not living with a family, you're totally alone. And I have two sons who are single, and I've heard a lot about the phenomenon of being alone. Sometimes it's better to be alone. And this next poem is really speaking to that. This is by the beautiful Rupi Kaur, who is an Indian poetess who has become amazingly popular with young people. And you can see why, because she speaks so simply and her words are so accessible. I didn't leave because I stopped loving you. I left because the longer I stayed, the less I loved myself.
Wow.
Whoa, whoa, right? This is so great in a few words. And if you are with a person or a partner or a family member who is dissing you, who is making you feel less than, or who is abusive or manipulating, you may be better off not having that person in your life. So I'm just planting a seed here today because I want to give you as much as I possibly can. So we're not spending a lot of time on each prompt. We really could spend hours with the prompts I've prepared today. But if you plant a seed and you come back to it, you can continue your writing another time on your own. And I hope you do that. I'm going to give you a great exercise to do with this. You know that self-hatred is a symptom of depression. And it gets worsened when other people bully us or attack us. Some people are toxic. Okay, you know that. And when you are around a toxic person, and then after you've seen that toxic person, usually people feel either exhausted or bad, just bad. I had a friend, every time I saw her, I was exhausted and I felt terrible. Finally, I realized what was going on. Something toxic, some kind of jealousy, a competitiveness, a biting kind of pushing down. And I had to, even though she was a friend of many years, it was quite painful, but I had to separate myself from this person. So great exercise. Take a page. You draw a line down the page. And when you've drawn that line, put on the right side people who, after you see them, you feel great. People who make you feel good. People who are nurturing and kind and loving. And on the left side, please put people who may be toxic. And you can do your own assessment of this. And if you want to bring it to a therapist, it's fine. But you're the one who really has to take a look. What is happening in the relationship? This is very important in depression because if we have any form of abuse or manipulation, it's insidious because we may love that person, but there's an undermining of self that is going on, and that's what happens in depression. The chemicals that are going through your body are saying, you're no good, it's no good, everything is wrong, it's hopeless, you can't, you cannot, it's hopeless. These are chemical messengers. And unfortunately, if you think, oh, I feel bad, I am bad, that is not true. The disorder is bad. The disorder is painful. You are not bad. There's a difference. We have to separate the disorder from the person. That's another reason that people commit suicide, because they haven't separated the disorder from who they are. And if a person who's depressed has a really good friend, I had my best friend would keep saying to me, Sherry, this is not you. It is not your character. There's nothing wrong with you. This is a disorder. Of course, I had a hard time believing her because when you have chemicals coming and flooding you with negativity, it's hard to believe anything good. You know, Dorothy in The Wizard of Oz, she is staying with Auntie M, right, and her uncle. Now, we don't know in this story why she's at Auntie M's house. Was she sent away because she was fooling around with the guy next door? Was she having a hard time in school? We have no idea. The only thing we know is that she is yearning to be elsewhere when she sings Somewhere Over the Rainbow. And sometimes we go through times where we really don't want to be where we're at. So people do all kinds of things. They may dissociate. They may drink. I tried that, it doesn't work. It just gives you an additional problem in addition to your depression. Then you'll be addicted to a substance. Humans do anything to get away from what is painful. And ironically, sometimes we really just have to sit with the pain, but we don't have to do it alone. And I am sharing my screen now. And we're back. Love that version of Somewhere Over the Rainbow. And I'm wondering if anybody would like to share what came up for you.
Can I come twice? This is Ben again.
Yes, Ben. Yes.
Okay. Let me see. Clear my throat. I used to want power. Now I'd rather see a flower. I once yearned for wealth. Now I'd be thankful for good health. I used to chase love like a puppy bites their tail. Now I have it. It arrived without a struggle or a chase. The love I have, I now embrace.
Wow.
Wow, we snapped our fingers.
It's a true story. She's right here with me.
Oh, wow. Well, God bless you. You've got away with words there.
Yes.
Lovely. Thank
Yeah.
you.
You bring it out in me. Thank you.
Thank you. Who else would like to share?
My one is just simple. It just take me into reflection into the future. That somewhere over this rainbow, I believe I will make a difference in the world. I do not know when, but maybe the right opportunity will present itself, because I'm seeing, what's going on in the world now. People are having so much negative perspective that a lot of people are rainbow. I believe there is hope, and I can be the one to help make.
Okay, you're freezing a
So
little.
Oh my goodness.
We're having a little trouble understanding.
Oh
Would you like to read what you have?
No, I didn't really, but I really did not write it. I just jot down some points, and I'm speaking from my heart. Right? So I'm sorry for this media. Maybe the internet is giving some problems, but I was just speaking that I'm saying that in spite of what is going on now in the world with the COVID situation,
Yes.
and I believe that somewhere over the rainbow, I can make a difference, a positive difference in the world to turn things around. I see hope. I see, and I'm seeing before me, a new society with, beautiful children, a better world. And I believe that maybe I'm the one to maybe make that change through poetry, writing, whatever, help make a better world.
Yes.
That's my kind of reflection for the future.
Yes.
Yes.
And I think if more people would think like you, Diane, we would be able to change the world. That whatever we bring to the table, we have to bring it now.
Mm-hmm.
And then we will see the change.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Thank you, Diane. You know, your desires, what you truly desire, is very important. And sometimes we think, oh, that's okay. I didn't get to it. We sacrifice for other reasons and other values, but the desire remains. Hold fast to dreams, for if dreams die, life is a broken winged bird that cannot fly. Langston Hughes. Hold fast to dreams. Okay, so somewhere over the rainbow is a kind of fantasy. If only I could fly over the rainbow like the little birds do. And fantasy can be very helpful when life, your imagination can be healing. And sometimes an imagination can be either healing or destructive.
Can I just share something real quick that I say to myself? It was like
yes.
Over the rainbow. I always say that a goal is a dream taken seriously.
Okay, so, can you repeat that, Laura?
A goal is a dream taken seriously.
Yes.
That's what I say to myself. You know, when I have a dream and I want it to, you know, come true, I make it a goal.
Mm-hmm. Nice. Thank you.
Sherry, I have a question.
Yes.
The list that you had us make with the toxic relationships on the left and joyful ones on the right.
Right.
Is that related to the Over the Rainbow exercise?
No, that's a separate thing that's really for you to do in your own time, that you can spend more time with, you know, thinking about the different people in your life, but it's not related to this.
Oh.
I was confused. I made it related. And so on one side of the rainbow, yearning was for the family I created. On the other side of the rainbow was the family I grew up in, you know, the toxic.
Okay. But you were able to create that other family.
But I wasn't sure I was supposed to be doing that. Yeah, right. Yeah.
The non-toxic. Right. And that's what's important.
And my Over the Rainbow, you know, are like a bunch of really quirky, not that easy to love people, but they're so wonderful and lovable, and I love them so much, and they don't hurt me. You know, they're hard to love just because, like, I've got a son who's like very, very quirky and difficult to love in a lot of ways, but loving.
Yes. And human beings are quirky creatures. We really are. And we're each different, and we're wired differently, and we think differently, and we express ourselves differently. I'm going to go to the next song. And I was talking about, you know, sometimes we fantasize, we leave the here and now by fantasizing, and sometimes that helps us get through. Sometimes we over-focus and we are trying ambitiously to do something we have our hearts set on, and then we feel like a failure if we don't achieve what we set out to do. So I'm sharing my screen. I can almost see it. You can use the chat if you like, and put in, what is it that's just out of your reach? I mean, just a phrase or a line. And Diane, I'm going to ask you to read that. If you can write that in there.
Someone said security.
Yes. And under that.
Someone said, I cannot let myself get lost again.
Yes.
Someone said, calm at times, I get anxious. I can almost see it, a happy life, no more heartache.
Yes.
Aware that I can't save others from choices that they have made.
Yes, that's difficult. Very difficult for parents and wives and husbands when we see a loved one doing something. We wish we could control that, but we have free will. They have free will. The only life you can save, as Mary Oliver says, the only life you can save is your own. Correct?
Mhm.
Okay. Now, the problem with climbing is, and I see Catherine wrote financial independence. Yes, we can almost see what we want. When we try to climb, we do risk falling. And I'm going to play a video for you now. I hope you liked that video, which shows you a dance of falling and getting back up and falling and getting back up. And I think that we have a big problem because we don't teach our young people that there's nothing wrong with failing or falling. In order to walk, you first fall, right? That's how we grow. We have so much shame about the idea of failing that we see failing and falling as something bad. But in fact, we have to fail in order to eventually learn how to succeed. And I have a friend who says, fail often and fail well, and learn from trial and error. I'd like to share a poem of mine that is about failing and falling. When I die, I want to hear the angels clapping and circling me with a pure fragrance of sandalwood and frankincense. And in unity, they will say, well done, Cher. You fell and you got up. You fell, you got up. You fell, you got up. And they sing this song at least a dozen times. Ashamed, I hide my face. But I fell. And you never fall. And they will smile and say, we are perfect. We live on a single plateau of perfection. We have no free will, no dreams, no aspiration. In unity, they sigh. You fell and you got up. Well done, Cher. And they clap again. There is an ancient saying, fall down 6 times, get up 7. The famous inventor, Thomas Edison, once said, and of course, he's the inventor of the light bulb, and he said, I have not failed. I just found 10,000 ways that an electric bulb doesn't work. So I would like you to write down on your page right now, I have not failed. I just learned, or I just found that. I found out that, or I learned that. And if you will be so kind as to put your one phrase into the chat, I will ask Dr. Diane to read this to us. We only fail when we don't get back up. Failure is the stepping stone to success. Yes. Jack Gilbert wrote one about failing and flying. It's all a matter of perspective, says Nancy. Funny I taught my kids that it was time to make mistakes. I never learned that, and therefore put being perfect as a criteria for myself. I need to give myself the same grace I gave my sons.
I can add on. I learned to try and try again, that it's okay for me not to be perfect. I am human. There is great beauty in the rawness of vulnerability. I have not failed. I found out that I am brave in my experimentation. I have not failed. I found out that trying is necessary for the process of success. I have not failed. I found out that it is more important to stay in the game. There is great beauty in the rawness of vulnerability. I have not failed. I just found who I am and who I am not. Life is a challenge. I just found out that when I think I know, that's when I realized I have barely begun to understand, and I have not failed. I just found out that the odds were stacked against families like mine. I do not have to internalize our oppression. I have not failed. I am learning.
What I want to say here is when you are depressed, you're not going to feel like climbing any mountains. When you are depressed, you will want to stay under the covers, and you want to give your depression a cozy home. And that's exactly what you should not do. I remember a friend of mine saying, I want you to kick that depression out. I want you to give it hell. So how do you give depression hell? You exercise even if you don't feel like moving. You don't remain passive. You don't lie in bed. Okay? You try to stay active, try to be around positive people. Exercise is said to be equivalent to an antidepressant, but if you cannot kick it within a couple of weeks and you're still feeling really bad, you need to consult a professional. I would say also you need to teach yourself joy. How do you do that? Okay, well, I'm going to read the words of a wonderful writer, Barbara Kingsolver, who says, in my own worst seasons, and by the way, writers and creative people have 6 or 7 times the depression that the regular population has. So you may or may not be a very creative person. If you're on this, you probably are a creative. But Barbara Kingsolver says, in my own worst seasons, I've come back from the colorless world of despair by forcing myself to look hard for a long time at a single glorious thing. A flame of red geranium outside my bedroom window. And then another, my daughter in a yellow dress. And another, the perfect outline of a full dark sphere behind the crescent moon. Until I learned to be in love with life again. Like a stroke victim, retraining new parts of the brain to grasp lost skills. I have taught myself joy over and over again. And I would say, when you have time, and if this is a good exercise to do every single day of your life, write down 2 or 3 things every day that you noticed are beautiful. Spend the time to install that think about it, savor it. I am going to play one more song for you, and it's called Hope. And I'm going to ask you to do your own writing of Hope Is. Hope Is. Okay. And this is by Idina Menzel, one of my favorite singers. I hope that this has been meaningful for you. If you want to put Hope Is in the chat, if you came up with a metaphor, your own metaphor, we'd love to read that. But because of time, I just hope, I feel great that I was able to speak with you and that people were so open in sharing their writings. And even if you didn't share, but you wrote something for yourself, I hope that this was meaningful and inspirational and also very practical. Any comments? Yes.
It was an excellent program.
Yes.
And as far as these excellent programs, and really brought a lot of feelings that I had buried somewhere inside me to the fore. As far as the last song, Hope, as I was thinking of the song, I was thinking of Diane's bird.
Yes.
That cannot fly, that can fly.
Yes. So Diane has a beautiful story that she wrote, The Bird That Cannot Fly. And the other bird that comes to mind is Emily Dickinson.
Yes, yeah. Hope is the thing with feathers.
Yes.
The one I know is Diane's. But,
Thank you.
Yes. Hope is the thing with feathers that perches in the soul. Very important that we don't give up hope.
And Sherry, one final thing. Are you okay?
Yes. I'm good.
Okay, I was just referring to...
Very good. I am well. I am whole. Otherwise, I couldn't be doing this, what I'm doing right now. And this is when I feel the best, when I'm doing what my work is. And I feel so strongly there are so many people suffering from mental disorders that there is help for, but people don't realize that, or they're ashamed. They don't want to ask for help. And I had the song Help by the Beatles, which I didn't play. I'm sorry. There is, community is very important. And going to a clinic or a private office of a doctor, Diane, do you want to add something about this?
Yeah, yes. Well, first, I want to thank you so much, Sherry, for bringing your sensitivity, your heart, your soul, your brain, your experience, your talents to us in such a generous way. In terms of mental health distress, mental health disorders, I think one thing that's so important is there is no shame. We are all human, right? And seeking help is a sign of self-love, right? And get whatever help you feel is needed. There's support groups, there's therapy, medication can also help. There's exercise, there's friendship, there's eating right, exercise. And I want to add that arts and healing, the expressive arts, have a very important role to play in emotional well-being on a personal level and also on a community and societal level. And that's why the Creative Writing Center that Sherry has, other organizations, my Arts and Healing Resiliency Center are so important. And that's why I'm so glad to have Sherry with us to really demonstrate this. It's not something just to talk about. You have to experience it. And when you experience it on a personal level, you know, because something new happens when you experience an expressive art. Something new comes through you or out of you, whether that's describing in a deep way an experience, whether that be a painful experience, but you've described it or shown it in such a way that you can say, yes, that's how it feels. And you can also come up with a new idea that you never even thought you had in you before. And yet it's part of you because it's coming through you.
The point about the creative arts is that unlike other treatments, it goes through the heart. And it is an experiential kind of learning. It's not just the brain, though it involves the brain. It's mind, body, and spirit. I also want to mention that I will be doing a course starting in October, which is called 5 Poems to Change a Life. And you really get more like 20 poems in that. But I just want people to know there are trainings, there are personal experiences, there are support groups, as Diane said, there are online groups, there's telehealth, there are many options and many ways to create community and to continue to grow no matter where you've been. We know what we are, but we do not know what we may become.
Yeah.
Which is William Shakespeare, actually. I'm not Sherry Reiter.
I'd like to share too that the Arts and Healing Resiliency Center will be sponsoring on a monthly basis guest facilitators. Our next facilitator is John Fox. That will be in October. John is also a poetry therapist. He's the author of several books. One of them is called Poetic Medicine. I highly recommend it. Also, we will be having something that I'm calling Follow Your Art's Heart, which I envision as a salon and studio, more so on the idea of creating a community of people that are interested in exploring and sharing the expressive arts. I'm imagining, inviting someone in for a conversation, and open sharing of how to develop a community together, and also a time to be able to create together. I think there's something very wonderful when you're in a community, and it can be an online community where the intention is healing and people are respectful of each other, and just a time set aside to create. So please be in touch with Sherry. Go to her workshops, look at her website, be in touch with me through the Arts and Healing Resiliency Center.
I want to thank everybody. You've been great. You've been really wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, bye everybody.
Bye.
Goodbye, everyone.